Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. We are moving on now to some business in the city of Cincinnati. It was recently announced, I believe last year, that the city of Cincinnati was offering a website where people could find listings for apartments. It's verified through the city of Cincinnati. That was all powered by software from a company called Citywise, based out of Milwaukee. And we are joined now by the COO of Citywise to talk about that collaboration and some various plans that are going forward. I think this is really interesting. Jermey Schmidt is the COO of Citywise Software. Jermey, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack. Excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. You are partnered with the city of Cincinnati, and you've created this website, which the URL, I don't know if there's an easier way to get to this site, but it's apartments.cincinnati-oh.gov, which might want to work on a better URL, but that's none of my business. In terms of what you're providing to people, though, the idea that this is a website that lists open apartments, a lot of details about them, and it's all verified. That's a really unique partnership.
Yeah, so we've been working with Cincinnati since last December. We launched the site with Mayor Purival at a press conference, I think December 5th or 6th of last year. And we've had about 35,000 folks come through the site since then looking for rentals. What we really try and focus on is providing an alternative to renters so they can find more of kind of the middle market housing, the affordable housing. I think the last time I checked, about 70% of the listings on our site were at the fair market value for 1 and 2 bedroom or below. So a big goal for us is going out and working with kind of the local groups, the mom and pops, the folks that have, you know, not necessarily 400 or 500 units. They just have a couple buildings or, you know, some duplexes, single family homes, and kind of making it easier for renters to find their housing, because that's always a huge challenge to find that, you know, that pretty affordable kind of middle market housing for renters.
Yeah, it's always a challenge. Finding a place is always a challenge. And speaking personally, I know that I had a situation years ago when I was looking for a new apartment. I happened to find a listing that was on, I think, Craigslist that ended up being someone who didn't really have that apartment. They didn't own the property. And, you know, all that scammy stuff out there is everywhere when it comes to people specifically looking to rent. It's an issue in the housing sales market, but certainly renters have a lot of choppy waters to have to navigate. And this takes care of that, at least gives it a good bit of verification. When they're looking at it, they know it's good.
Yeah, so our team, we work with every single rental that comes on. So this isn't like Facebook Marketplace or like Craigslist where anybody can just go post anything and, you know, there's security deposit scams out there and stuff like that. We work with all the groups that are coming on. We work even with the single family homes. I was communicating with some of them just earlier this morning. So we're a partner to all of them. Adding that level of kind of, you know, verification and having to work through a human on stuff really has done wonders to prevent scams. We've been working on platforms like this for almost 15 years, and that's been a key to kind of avoiding any of those sorts of issues ever popping up.
Now, how does that work for you guys on the software side of things? Is it automatic stuff that checks for like the telltale signs of something scammy, or is it like having a person really go in there and checking out all the different listings?
Yeah, we get kind of automated notifications about new listings that are, you know, trying to be added. Nothing can go active without somebody on our team taking a look at it. But typically the way it works is when a landlord wants to add a property, they reach out to our team, and then our team communicates with them. So it's a pretty human focused situation. And you know, that's kind of been the key. If you're running scams, the last thing you want to do is have to talk to a human about it. So that's kind of what we've always found has been the way to prevent that from happening.
I think it's interesting when you first do go on the website, which again is apartments.cincinnati-oh.gov. Right away, there is a disclaimer that comes up, seemingly from the city, that talks about how the city's not vouching for the quality of these places. It's not accountable for, nor does it endorse or manage any external links. But like the one thing that you know you can trust on this site is the idea that these are legitimate listings.
They are legitimate listings, and kind of the way it works is we partner with cities because our goal is to kind of make a platform that's easy to find. If you look historically, a lot of cities have put up platforms so people could especially find housing that's income qualified housing, housing that's kind of public housing or owned by the city. I mean, you'll have always associated government websites with that housing. So we're trying to broaden the kind of where the reach of the city is. And by working with the city and putting it up on the Cincinnati-oh.gov domain, it actually becomes really easy to find on Google. So if you Google
Great.
apartments for rent in Cincinnati, you're going to see this on the first page. And it just becomes something that is easy to find. And if more renters are finding it and more renters are using it, then more landlords want to become a part of it too. So cities have always wanted to kind of help provide resources to renters looking for housing. It's just a matter of how do you do that? How do you make it easy to find? How do you make sure people are engaging with it? And that's where, we have 15 years of experience building platforms like this and making them engaging, and then being able to give our partners, information about usage and kind of what's going on in the city, and making this a beneficial thing for the whole community, renters, city, and landlords.
Yeah, and in terms of speaking of getting the word out and letting people who are looking to rent know that there is a trustworthy website to go to, and also getting out the word to landlords with properties on the best way to list things, you guys have a housing fair coming up later this month.
Yeah, June 27th at Washington Park. It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We've had a couple dozen property groups committed to it. We're really excited about this. This is our first housing fair that we've done with a city partner. We've done, probably a couple hundred of these, maybe a few hundred of these at universities nationally. Previously, we worked on partnering with universities on having housing platforms. And this is a really common thing at the university level. Well, we're trying to take that same idea and the same kind of concept of making it easy to find housing in person as well as online, and take that to the city level as well. So Washington Park, huge park, great event space. Lots of people going to be walking by there. It sounds like it's going to be a very, very busy day downtown. And we just want it to be easy for, if you're a renter and you're walking by and you see all these tables set up, you can go talk to, 10, 15 landlords all at once, get an understanding of what's out there, and kind of even do virtual tours. And, maybe if you really like it, you submit an application on site. We've seen that many times at the university level. So we're trying to take that same kind of, the community aspect of finding housing in college and take that to the cities as well. And the landlords and the folks we've talked to in Cincinnati have been really receptive. We have a little thing on that website where you can sign up to receive information. And we've had almost 500 folks already sign up to get a reminder day of, so they can attend the event.
That's really great. And the idea, too, that, again, that it's all verified is super helpful. How did you guys come to have this partnership with the city? There have been comments from the mayor that this website isn't like costing the city anything. How does this partnership work? How did it begin?
Yeah, so we started reaching out to the city, I want to say like fall or winter of 2024. And we had conversations throughout the year last year. One thing I always say is that, we've reached out to a lot of cities. We've started a lot of these conversations nationally. Of all the cities we've reached out to, the folks, the city staff, from the council to the city staff on up, Cincinnati's just been very receptive to having conversations. It seems like it's been kind of a city staff that is looking for ideas and looking to embrace ideas and kind of come up with solutions. I know that the mayor's team has been focused a lot on affordable housing, and I think this kind of fit right up the alley of what they were looking for. So we talked throughout last year, kind of worked everything out. The structure of the website is, the larger landlords that do participate in the website, they pay a small fee, and it's really a fraction of what they would pay to like a Zillow or an apartments.com. Any of the mom and pops or the small apartments, there's no cost to them. There's no cost to the city. The whole thing is kind of based on this idea that because we're working with the city, we can make this website easy to find. We don't have to go out and spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing and then, pass those costs back off to the landlord and then the renter. That's kind of the problem that we've seen with the private market to date. So that's what we're trying to solve. And that's why, we did this first at the university level, over 150 universities nationally. We took that same model and now we're applying it with cities. And I think Cincinnati's been the first really, really great, strong example of the success something like this can have.
Yeah, I was curious on how the selling of the website works and what it looks like in terms of, the seeming competitive nature with things like you mentioned, apartments.com and others. Is it the idea that you guys are trying to keep things focused and a little bit more government related for the credibility side versus just trying to charge a landlord to sell?
Well, we're making a website that's super easy to find. And if renters are coming to find a website, landlords want to be a part of that. And that's what we've seen. That's been true, since the beginning of time, since the beginning of any websites, really. So our team, they really work to build relationships and get to know the folks and the landlords and the communities in Cincinnati. And, we've just kind of understood, what their pain points are. And we continue to improve and adapt this website all the time. There's more stuff coming. Every week we roll out new updates and features to improve the experience for both the renters and the landlords. But our team, we just go out, we're in Cincinnati almost every month at this point, having conversations with landlords and just making sure things are working for them and kind of building those relationships.
I feel like you guys really are filling a sort of a hole in the market and letting landlords know specifically that if they go with you guys, it's going to be legitimate listings and vice versa too. I wasn't trying to make too big of a deal about how this is something that I think is pretty cool that I've never heard of going on anywhere else. Is this a relatively unique and new thing? Cincinnati's a decently sized city. Are you guys partnered with a lot of other cities?
I think Cincinnati was the 7th city that came on board, and it was the first one that was, of its size, of a top, 50 city. So yeah, this is a pretty new concept. We've been doing this with cities for about 2 years. We're up to about 30, between 25 and 30 right now. We've recently partnered with Lexington, Louisville nearby.
Sure.
Milwaukee County, like I said, was the first one that we partnered with because we had a lot of history working with the universities there. But it is a new concept. And, I think a lot of people are still getting familiar with the idea. And I think a lot of people initially, when they see that a city's got a housing website, they think it's only for kind of the public housing. And I think we're working to kind of educate and inform people on that what we're trying to do is really help the people who are looking for rentals that are hard to find. Even now, it's 2026. And if you talk to the average renter, hey, how did you find your place?
Right.
A lot of times they're going to say, oh, a friend of mine told me about it, or I was driving around and I saw a sign on a building. And, I think it's great that people are still getting out there and driving around and finding things in real life. But we want to build the biggest possible database that has all that stuff that you used to only be able to find if you were driving around. We don't want it to just be, the brand new buildings and the larger buildings. We want to have it totally all inclusive and really make it something that every renter in Cincinnati can find what they're looking for on it.
Yeah, and certainly you understand this market. Cincinnati is very much the kind of city where a given neighborhood will just put a sign out front if one person owns
Absolutely.
One of those four-banger apartments that just put the sign out front, and you know that the fish are going to come and nibble on the line. It's nice that you guys have something that's pretty well verified and has a bigger reach than just driving around at the right place at the right time. You guys also list some really interesting stuff on individual listings. There's ratings for things like walkability, in addition to talking about what the rent is, what the square footage is, and various amenities within the apartment itself.
Yeah, we try and improve those listings all the time. And, our goal is to kind of keep building this up, keep adding more interactive features that are relevant. We want to pull in, Bank of America headquarters is nearby, or Kroger is nearby, or any of the large employers in town, University of Cincinnati. What's the distance to those? How far would that drive be? I want to find something highlighted around one of those top employers. What are those places that are nearby that? So those are all things that are coming down the pipeline. We're a company that has prided ourselves on continuing to innovate, continuing to build our platforms, our software, and the focus is making this the best thing that we can. And by listening to our partners in Cincinnati, we've learned quite a bit, and we want to make sure that we're doing our best to get them all the information they need, and then make a better experience for renters as well.
Jeremy, that's great. Jermey Schmidt is the COO of Citywise Software, a company that has partnered with the city of Cincinnati to create a website that shows verified, legitimate listings for apartments all throughout the city. That website, once again, is apartments.cincinnati-oh.gov. That's the Citywise Software site there. And again, if you Google through, you'll be able to see various listings in terms of what's available in the city of Cincinnati. And then again, if you are a renter, if you are a landlord, you can go to this housing fair that they've got going on Saturday, June 27th at Washington Park from 10 to 2. If you are looking maybe to connect in person after you see things on the site. Jeremy, is there anything else you want to make sure people know about?
June 27th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you want to find the website, you can just Google Cincinnati Apartments or Cincinnati Apartments for Rent. You'll see it on the first page. Use it, love it, get to know it. Glad to be here, glad to help everybody.
Jermey Schmidt with Citywise Software. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.